you know, all these titles and things, when you watch recommended documentary, Pumping Iron.
Oh,
Have you seen Pumping Iron? Yeah, it's just another level.
it's
And
ridiculously weird and funny and awesome.
yeah. And for anyone that's been to the gym or lifted weights and then to see what's going on in this, you're just like, what am I doing?
See, I didn't really see it that way. I kind of saw it as like, and because I watched it while I was reading this book, an interesting insight into Arnold himself and his persona and his showmanship. Almost like I felt that a lot of that was complete rubbish, but it all kind of moved. He was creating this persona of, I love it so much, which he did, but he amped it up, you know, like he exaggerated. He was larger than life, and the things he said were meant to shock, and the way he carried himself was meant to intimidate his opponent, Lou Ferrigno, and he has a loose relationship with truth, in my opinion. He uses that to his advantage.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that what he says is necessarily often untrue, but I reckon it's
It's like
distortion.
a reality distortion field.
Yeah, it's close to the truth, but it's not.
Yeah,
you know.
it's the truth he wants to be the truth.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And the truth is that he worked incredibly hard in the gym for hours and hours and hours every day.
And then went and worked after doing that.
Yeah,
then
and went to
worked on the
night
other
school
thing.
and then went to do all this other stuff. So that's all 100% true. But the way he talks about it and some of the stuff he says, like I think in that documentary he says he missed his father's funeral so he could work out or something. And you're like, well, is that the reason? You know, like
I think he missed his brothers too.
he did.
Yeah.
He missed his brothers as well.
He, you know, is obviously a rich Hollywood star. Therefore, you know, he's never done hard work, or, you know, he's just fallen into acting, has now made millions of dollars. Whereas he made some of his big bucks early on in property. So
Yeah, I would say that was key to his success, because something
leverage.
Yeah, really interesting about this book, and you've touched on a few of the points I completely agree with, is that he made it so he didn't need what he really wanted, if that makes sense. So like, because he'd built up, he was doing all this hard work, bricklaying and creating a nest egg for himself. He always had that to fall back on. And so he didn't have to jump into the next role if it wasn't a good one. He didn't need the money, right? So he was able to be much more selective about the movies that he did make and wait for the right one.
Yeah, he wasn't a career actor as such.
Yeah, and there's real power in that. Not needing what you actually want, I think, is an awesome theme for...
He was creating his own scarcity in that creative environment.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Which helped him build his brand out and everything beyond.
He's just one of the most determined and driven people I've ever read about. And that hard work couples great success every time. Whenever you read one of these books, it doesn't fall to their feet. They bloody work for it. There's a lot of talent and natural ability that he's got. But he is one of the most determined, energetic, never stop people. And I think there's a bit of a dark side to that too that I picked up. And it's that at all costs, you know. And I think it's had a positive and a negative effect on his life. Like, without being cynical, I don't think it's an accident that he married into the Kennedy family, right? Not saying that he orchestrated that because he wanted to get to the power or he didn't love Maria, but I'm sure that was part of the attraction, you know.
Yeah, there's a lack of sort of organic. It's always output focused.
Yes, that's what it is.
Output and
that might be a bit rough on him, but it is that sort of way, and like nothing's ever enough, right?
Yeah.
And I actually found myself feeling pretty sorry for him or not wanting to. There's certainly traits I really admire about him, many, but a lot I don't either. And I kind of found myself feeling sad for him by the end of the book, to be honest.
He was so driven. Like, he would develop these visions for where he wanted to go. Like, that was just so profound. And he'd talk about, you know, the vision of America, you know, the vision of making it to America, the vision of being on the stage and so much so being on the stage, Mr. Universe, having won it already, so much so that he was renowned to say when he won that he wasn't exhilarated when he did win. It was just the way it was supposed to happen.
That's confidence.
And it was the way it was supposed to happen. Therefore, he didn't have as much excitement as what you would expect.
I really admire the way he has massive goals that seem ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because if you don't shoot high, you're giving yourself no chance, right? And he kind of did it, which is like awesome. But even if he didn't, he would have got much further than if he'd just said, if he didn't dream big,
Yeah. It's really interesting, like, because he just had such a clear vision of where he was going, and then he had almost set like these goals in place, and he would jump into what was called what he calls autopilot mode, where he'd have to, if he had to change course, and he did have to change course a couple of times, he would have to unwind his vision and then turn off autopilot. Otherwise, he would just keep charging forward in that sort of direction, which is just so,
And coupled that big dreams with the ridiculous energy meant he just kept going towards it, right?
Driving through the brick wall.